Hello, my name is Rhonda Smith, host of Recover, Restore, Reenergize Your Life. My guest today is Dr. Phyllis Hubbard, who is a doctor of naturopathic medicine and an Ayurvedic practitioner. So welcome to the show, Dr. Phil.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So you're a doctor of naturopathic medicine. Can you really tell me and the audience what naturopathic medicine is really all about and how it may differ from homeopathic medicine or integrative medicine or any of the other things that we've heard about?
Okay, great question. Well, naturopathy is kind of think of it as an umbrella. It is the oldest system of healing that is out there. So under naturopathy, you will see Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, all of these other types of processes. They are processes that use food, herbs, water, and therapeutic processes to enhance the body's self-healing mechanism. So they could come from many different parts of the world, and they fall under naturopathy, but you may hear them as, say, as you mentioned, homeopathy or Chinese medicine, something like that.
Okay. And how does that compare to being a medical doctor? I mean, all of us have been to a primary care physician or even a specialist, but talk about how your practice, other than, if you compare with drug therapies and what medical doctors do or more traditional doctors do, can you talk about the differences in healing through those different methodologies?
Wow, how much time do you have, Rhonda? Okay, all right, I will attempt to explain. So basically, I like to use an analogy of, although this may not sound very exciting, but I like to use an analogy of a toilet because people can relate to that. If you have a toilet that is overflowing, right, a medical doctor would say to you, oh, every time the toilet overflows, take this mop and mop up the water, right? Mm-hmm. And so the medicine, the pharmaceutical medicine that they prescribe to you would be tantamount to that mop that's mopping up the water every time the toilet overflows, right? Right. A naturopathic doctor would be different. A naturopathic doctor would say, okay, your toilet is overflowing. Let's take the top off, figure out where the leak is, what is the problem, what is the actual cause of the issue. So it's going to take a little longer to figure out what that cause is, but once we figure out the cause, you put the top back on and it doesn't flood anymore. And so the difference really to me is that if you think about a toilet overflooding, once it overfloods, you have not just the water that you're mopping up, but now you have mold that can show up as a result of the water coming all the time because we haven't. So it starts to create other issues as well. So there's a really big difference between the two. I think both systems have their place, but naturopathy seeks to address the cause and eradicate the cause, therefore eradicate the actual disease.
Right. So it's kind of like peeling back the onion, the layers of an onion, and getting to the core of what exists.
Exactly. What is it? And some people are not aware of what that core is, and so as you start to get down and peel back those layers, it may get a little scary for people because there may be an emotional issue that is attached. Well, there's definitely emotional issues that are attached to disease, but there may be issues that people hadn't thought of that are connected to the reason why they have this particular health issue.
Can you give us an example of what that might be, or a situation that you've experienced yourself? Yeah. Yes, my goodness.
I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client that was a workaholic, raging workaholic, and so we mainly worked on how to balance your life. She literally was the type of person that would walk into her office, and before she could get to her chair to put her purse down, 10 people would bum rush her with different things, and she was totally stressed out. So we talked about how to gain control in that area. And as we were talking about that, I said to her, there are health issues that are underlying these problems that you are having, and we're going to have to look at them from a nutritional standpoint, but also from an emotional standpoint. And she said, I'm willing to do nutrition, but I am never going to do the emotion. Forget it. It's not going to happen. And I said, okay. I'll tell you what, nutrition we'll work on, and emotion, I will never ask you to go there. So we did nutrition, and we started working on the different systems of the body that were imbalanced, you know, that were off balance. And about 4 consultations in, she just blurted out, unsolicited, "I hate my father." And I went, "Oh, okay." Well, I kept my part of the bargain. I said I would never ask. But since she brought it up, I said, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Then we started getting into some really deep issues that were directly connected to why she wasn't able to speak up for herself at work, and things that were connected to her actual health issues as well. So it was very, very interesting to see how that played out.
And these are probably things that she's been holding on to since her childhood that
Absolutely.
probably cause what you often refer to as dis-ease within the body. Is that correct?
Exactly, exactly. Disease is just a lack of ease in the body, and from the Ayurvedic perspective, and Ayurveda is an East Indian form of medicine that simply means the science of living, how to live your life. And from that perspective, everything is connected. And
Yes.
when you look at dis-ease in the body, emotions create dis-ease, and not only do they create dis-ease, they have a home. In Ayurveda, the system is very intricate. Every emotion is connected to an organ. So, for example, the repressed anger that she had was showing up as problems in the liver, and the liver is the seat of anger in the Ayurvedic system, right? So we had to, in order to address the issues in the liver, we had to deal with the anger and the repressed issues there as well. We couldn't just do it with food or just do it with herbs.
Right. Well, so you really have to look at, in order to be healthy, it's the whole self. It's the physical, mental, emotional, and maybe sometimes spiritual well-being too that can influence our health or wellness and the development of diseases. Is that?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, you do. And what the way I work with people is I talk to them about the different ways of healing. There's emotional healing, there's nutritional healing, we can work with herbs, we can do body work and therapeutics, including exercise practices such as Qigong and yoga and all of that stuff. And what I do is I lay it out for the client, and I see where their interest is, and I also watch them to see what frightens them. And if I see that there's an area that's a little bit scary, I just don't go there, because I know that when you start to heal one aspect of the body, you heal all aspects of the body, which is the reason why that client that I had blurted out she hated her father. Once she started eating healthy food, the tissues couldn't hold on to the crap anymore, right? I knew that was going to happen. So I said, okay, I won't ask you to go there, but I know you're going there. And the thing is, she went there when she was ready to go there. So there's no pushing from my aspect. It is a beautiful dance that I have with the clients. You know, we just, where are you? What are you willing to do? And then I might gently nod and you know, prod them a little bit. But basically, by the time they get to a certain area, they're ready to go there. They're ready to do the release, and they want to be free.
Right. So tell us a little bit about how you actually came to be a naturopathic doctor. I'd love to hear your story.
Okay, well, you keep asking me these questions. It could take a long time, so I'm going to try. Woo! Okay, here we go. So basically, it started when I was a child. When I was a child, I developed bronchitis, and it was really intense. And, you know, I was a typical kid from a typical family, so I did what most people do. You know, I was taken to the doctor, and the doctor started putting me on meds. And then the next year I had bronchitis, and it went on, and the cough got worse. And after a couple years, it turned into what is now called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is a combination of, you know, different diseases that include bronchitis, emphysema, asthma, those diseases. And so I developed COPD, and it was horrible. It was horrible, and it was always in the background of my life. And I hated the fact that I couldn't exercise like regular people could exercise. When I was in school, I wanted to train, and I had the body for it, but I couldn't breathe, you know, so it was just a challenge the whole time. And then I had weight issues. So when I got to my 20s, I had an epiphany. And up to that point, I just blindly took the medicine, and I accepted the fact that that's just the way it was. But in my 20s, I had this awakening. And I noticed a trend, and the trend was every year the bronchitis would come back worse. And the medical doctor's response to that was to give me medication that was stronger than it was the year before. And I went, wait a minute, if the medicine is getting stronger, but the bronchitis is getting stronger, and I'm getting weaker, what's the purpose of medication? You know, but I didn't have any other avenue. I had never even heard of holistic medicine or any of that stuff. But inside of myself, I felt like if I don't do something, I'm going to be dead by 40. So it can't be to keep taking this medicine. I have to do something else. And so I became desperate for answers, and I started searching and going to bookstores and looking for things, and I discovered Ayurveda. And when I discovered Ayurveda, the very first message in one of the books that I read said the disease was lack of ease in the body. And it also said that disease was something that you got. Literally, like, I got this glass of water, but if I don't want this glass of water, I can put it back. And I went, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to have COPD? And up to that time, it never dawned on me that I could get rid of what I had. The doctors had always said that because I have bronchitis, I would eventually develop asthma and then emphysema. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, right? So it was terrible. And that's what they tell people that have COPD. It's incurable, and it just gets worse. So I said, all right, this stuff sounds a little bit weird to me, but I'm going to try it anyway because I don't know what else to do. And I started practicing the strategies of Ayurveda, and in 3 months, it was gone. I was completely free of this disease. It was unbelievable to me, and it totally blew my mind. And the next year, I kept looking for the bronchitis, but it didn't come, you know. And I went, wait a minute, this is like gone forever. This is what am I supposed to do with this information that I spent 27 years with all of this drama? But to change my lifestyle and to take control of my health equal being free of pharmaceutical medications, of the embarrassing cough that I had, of all of that stuff. And now I'm training and becoming stronger. I'm like the best shape of my life now, even though I'm still not in shape yet. But I'm getting into the best shape of my life because of this process of learning how to take control of my health. So after that, I was in the corporate world and traveling 3 weeks out of the month, and it was kind of crazy there. And I said, you know, this is not my path. I have to do something else. And right in the middle of that conversation, a friend of mine developed cancer, and I said, no, I don't have any credentials. Don't talk to me. Wait till I get a certificate of something, and then we can talk. And she said, no, I need you to help me now because I don't want to take medication, and I don't want chemo and all of that stuff. And so that's what really helped me become a naturopathic doctor, because before I had any credentials at all, I helped this person reverse thyroid cancer with no chemo, no, radiation, any of that. And at the end of that process, I realized this is actually my path. This is my passion. I love doing that work with her, and it gave me a sense of joy and satisfaction, especially to see her free of cancer without taking medication. It changed my life, and so that's how I became a naturopathic doctor.
All right. So you talked earlier, and you gave the analogy of the toilet overflowing, but when you are presented like the woman you just talked about with a certain condition, like how do you really figure out what to do from a naturopathic standpoint?
Well, what I normally do is I have a consultation that I put people through, and it's really funny because most people, no, I should say every person that comes to see me says the same thing. They say, we don't have to talk about the nutrition stuff. I already got that down. I eat healthy. But why do I have this digestive problem? And I'm like, if you have a digestive problem, it might be connected to nutrition. So I have put together a program where the first hour of our consultation, I do this re-education that incorporates nutrition and all of that stuff. And the reason why I do that is because when I give a person a strategy, now they know why I'm giving them the strategy, right? And I have to really convince people that all of this information that's floating around out there, people are taking bits and pieces of words, acai berry. So then they just throw acai berry in a shampoo, and all of a sudden that shampoo is good. I'm like, this shampoo is full of toxins. read the label, right? It drives them
Exactly.
crazy.
Right.
Right? So all this information leads people to think that maybe they're eating healthy, you know, and like, you actually don't know what eating healthy is. I need to convince you of that first. And so we go through that process, and then I look at what they do. I look at what they eat and how they live their life. And then we start making tweaks from there.
Right. So can you give us an example of what eating healthy really is and what that looks like?
Okay. Well, one thing is looking at your plate, for example, and seeing what foods digest acidic and what foods digest alkaline. That's really important, because the body has to be, the blood, I should say, needs to be slightly alkaline. But the standard American diet, which the perfect acronym for that is SAD, right? The standard American diet is probably 80 to 90, for some people 100% acidic. And this means that when you eat food, it digests and leaves an ash. Whatever that ash is, whether it's acidic or alkaline, will change the blood, right? So I take a look at that, and I train people to look at their plate and look and see how much food you eat digests acidic versus alkaline. Acidic food is not bad. You have to have acid in the stomach to help digest food. It's just that we eat so much acidic food that the body is constantly thrown out of homeostasis or internal balance. So I take a look at that first, because that's something that people can connect with. So I say, if it is a fruit or a vegetable, it most likely will digest alkaline, right? If it is a grain, a nut, a seed, that type of thing, meats, cheeses, all of those things digest acidic. And there are some crossovers between them, but for the most part, I want them to look at their plate and just gauge from there and start making changes. And for most people, to go 50% alkaline is a huge shift for them, because they may be eating 90% acidic, right? So we start working on just looking at the plate, and I try to make it real basic. What do you do every single day? So we start with nutrition, and then I add some other things in that they may need, like essential fatty acids and getting the salts and sugars and oils and all that stuff right.
Right. Well, I want to go back to your point about creating the right balance, especially internal balance.
Yes.
Because can you talk about having a more acidic diet and what that does in terms of creating the right environment for things to happen or illnesses to occur? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, yes. So think about an air conditioning system. Our body operates that way. It's like a negative feedback loop is what it's called. So if in your house it gets too hot, the air conditioner comes on. So your body is like that too. If in your body something is off, then something switches on to change that environment. So let's say you eat, God forbid, pepperoni pizza, 100% acidic diet, right there, completely salty, the whole thing, right? So you eat that, and your body goes, wow, this is a lot of acid. I need to do something. So it'll start looking for organic sodium to neutralize the acid. But you didn't get any organic sodium in your diet. So now the body has to look for the backup system. And what in your body has a lot of calcium to neutralize acid? We know it's the bones, right? So then the body will start robbing the bones to neutralize the acid in the blood. And so what do you think will happen if every meal you have is acidic and your body continues to rob the bones? Do we have a problem with osteopenia and osteoporosis in this country? And you think about the fact that since the Got Milk campaign came out, the goodness, osteopenia and osteoporosis has gone through the roof. And people still believe that calcium, the best way to get calcium is from milk. And milk actually causes an acidic condition in the body. So, you know, so that's what I mean by people thinking that they eat healthy. Well, yeah, I drink milk and I do this and I do that. I'm like, you know, we need to fine tune actually what you're doing so that you understand what health is. And going back to the person that had cancer, she was a vegetarian. So she's like, how could I have cancer being a vegetarian? And then I looked at her diet and I was like, girl, do you know that vegetarian has the word vegetable in it? You don't eat any. Eat some vegetables. So that's what I'm talking about. People have an idea of what healthy is, and because of all these buzzwords that are flying around, and then what I have to do is kind of re-educate them and then put them on the right path with fine-tuning and tweaking.
Right. So I want to go back to one point that you made. You said with a more acidic diet it could lead to or result in osteopenia, but also is that how people develop ulcers too?
Yes, it's how people develop ulcers, and acid feeds bacteria, and cancer loves to live in an acidic environment. I mean, when you get the acid-alkaline balance right, you put your body in homeostasis, and it has the energy and the resources to heal, right? When you put your body out of alignment like that, then it has to rob Peter to pay Paul, like I said. So that what I try to do is I try to get people out of that robbing Peter to pay Paul mode and put them into the put your body in homeostasis. People that have cancer tend to eat a lot of food that creates acid in the diet, and then they have bacteria that is kind of hanging under the radar that they're not thinking about, low-grade infections and that type of thing. And over time, that is what causes the cells to turn against each other, which would turn into an autoimmune disease like cancer. Okay. So it's important.
Right. Can you give us a few examples of what acidic foods are, whether it's what you drink or what you eat?
Okay. Well, if you're looking at foods that you eat, a lot of foods that we think of that are healthy are acidic. And so again, I want to say acidic foods are not bad. It's good to have about 25% of your diet digesting acidic. So let's say you're a vegetarian. If you're a vegetarian, or vegan even, because this is a huge issue. I know lots of vegans that are unhealthy for this reason. So if you're a vegan and you have a big old plate of brown rice and black beans, right? And you're like, this is great. And I'm like, that's 100% acidic, because both rice and beans digest acidic. So what I would say to that person is, okay, you can have your black beans, but how about have some quinoa instead, or some millet or something like that, because the millet, quinoa, and amaranth, they digest alkaline, right? They're treated like grains, but they're actually seeds, and they're superfoods. So I would tweak that and say, okay, let's do that instead. So beans, grains, nuts and seeds, meat, cheeses, all of these are foods that digest acidic, and they require quite a bit of resources for the body, especially cheese. Cheese is very hard on the body because it has lots of oil, lots of bad salt, lots of fat. The body has to do a whole lot of stuff to break it down. So when you put cheese on top of something, you're asking your body to do a lot of work.
Right. Now, I'm curious also, are those the type of foods that also cause the body to have inflammation?
Oh, goodness, yes, absolutely. All of those foods cause lots of inflammation in the body. In fact, I put a form up on my website that has foods that cause inflammation and foods that reduce inflammation. And so foods like, drinking sodas, and, soda's very, very high in acid. It's extremely acidic. Well, if you pour Coke on people know that you pour Coke on a battery, you can take the acid off. It's terrible. So there's lots of foods like that will acidify the body. So it's important to know what the differences are, but I try to get people to focus on not getting bogged down on the specific details. Just know that fruits and vegetables digest alkaline. Just about everything else digests acidic. So if you look at your plate and you don't have enough vegetables on there, or those superfood grains like quinoa, amaranth, and millet, then you've got some work to do. And I try to do it that way because it makes it simple, and they're not thinking, well, is this acidic? Is that acidic? I mean, we could split hairs. Nuts are acidic, but almonds aren't as acidic as other nuts. And, you could drive yourself crazy trying to split hairs on all of that stuff. Fruits and vegetables, everything else, you can think of as acidic. There are some crossovers. There are some fruits that are acidic and so forth, but it's not big enough for the average person to worry about.
Okay. And I want to ask you one more thing, just to take the whole acid imbalance a little bit further. And so when you talk about inflammation, can you talk about diseases that stem from that? Or specific diseases that stem from that? I know cancer being one of them, but
cancer is one of them. One that has come up quite a bit just recently with clients and just people that I've talked to are diseases of the colon, which I'm very, very interested in helping people overcome, like diverticulitis, for example, Crohn's disease, those type of digestive disorders that people don't seem to think about. Fatty deposits on the liver, which eventually would turn into, hardening of the cirrhosis of the liver. So there's so many diseases. Pretty much most disease begins as inflammation in some area. Arthritis, obviously, inflammation of the joints and rheumatic pain and all of these issues that rise up from there. So pretty much just about the main things that let me just talk about the main: high blood pressure, diabetes, right?
Yes.
Heart disease. All of these are coming from inflammatory issues, your body's response to the inflammation in the body. And we don't realize how powerful food is. Food is medicine and has the power to heal. So when you unconsciously just put whatever in the body and it starts to create inflammatory conditions, and that's a problem, right?
Okay. So we're getting to the end of our interview. It's been wonderful talking to you, but I wanted you to, if you could capture some of the core strategies for natural healing. I know that you talked about examples of where you've used naturopathic medicine to heal people, and I know it can also be used to prevent diseases from happening or occurring in individuals. So can you talk about some key strategies that are more along the lines of a natural healing approach that people should engage in and they're important to be mindful of every day?
One thing that's really important to be mindful of is to recognize that food really does matter. It really does matter. Food is medicine and it does heal. So when you eat pork rinds, your body can't say, I'm just going to pretend you didn't do that. Your body has to deal with those pork rinds, right? And so think about it that way. I ask people to think of their bodies as a garden, right? So if you want to get healthy, you pull the weeds and you plant the seeds, right? So you start looking at where in your life are things off balance and not healthy, right? Are you not eating enough vegetables or whatever? Think of that as a weed, right? Pull that weed and then plant the seed. How do I get more greens into my diet? Maybe I can start doing green smoothies. Maybe I can take a walk for 30 minutes after I eat. Maybe I can practice some breathing strategies to help increase circulation. So those type of things are really important. Looking at your life and seeing who stresses me, who's getting on my nerves. Do I have a pain in my neck? Who's causing that pain in my neck? Do I need to speak my truth with that person, right? So you can't just look at one aspect of the life. Look, and you'll know what is irritating you the most.
Right.
That is what your body needs. So pay attention to that first, and then you can go on from there. And then also just know that you want to look at emotion, you want to look at nutrition, you want to look at herbs, and you want to look at movement. So think of those 4 things. Am I moving? Am I stretching? Am I rotating joints? Am I doing anything at all? If you're not doing anything, start doing a little bit right there, and your body will love you for that.
Okay. And people, it doesn't matter what age you are. If someone is 65 or 70 or 25, you would recommend pretty much the same thing?
Absolutely. It's just that if the person is older and has some limitations, then I would alter I wouldn't alter the food so much, but the movement I would alter. I might have them do more joint rotations and stretching, and have them build up into cardio once they've grown their lung capacity and that type of thing. So I look at what their limitations are and then work with that if they have any. But otherwise, anyone can get on the path and begin to create health, because your body is, to the day you take your last breath, your body's trying to heal, right? So all you have to do is give your body what it needs and get out of the way. The body does the rest of the work.
That's great. Okay, so this has all been great information. I would love to continue our conversation, and I think the next time you and I get together, we're going to talk more about strategies for managing stress in our lives, which is an important part of causing dis-ease for a lot of us. And so I look forward to that conversation as well. So, but in the interim, can you tell us how to get in touch with you, what resources you have available that are, I know you live in beautiful Miami, but how can someone connect with you if they're, you know, in California or other parts of the world?
Absolutely. Well, you know I love California, and as soon as I have an invitation, I'm moving. I want to move to California myself.
Yes.
But you can contact me through my website. It's radianthealthstrategies.com. Strategies, IES at the end. You can find me on Twitter at GetRadiant. On YouTube, it's Radiant Health Strat, S-T-R-A-T. I've got great videos on YouTube, by the way. I have some breathing exercises, some joint rotations and stretching, some cooking classes on there. So you can check that out, and you can contact me by getting on my website. And on my website, I've got hundreds of pages of information, recipes. I've got years and years of newsletters on there as well. So tons and tons of information by just getting on the website. That's radianthealthstrategies.com.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, this is Rhonda Smith signing off for the Recover, Restore, Reenergize Your Life talk show. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you.